This episode is sponsored by Trend Micro, a global leader in cybersecurity. Learn more about their 30 years of security expertise on their website, trendmicro.com. My guest today is Mike Gibson. Mike serves as a VP of Threat Research at Trend Micro, focused on their vulnerability discovery, analysis, disclosure, and protection programs. He has over 15 years of information security experience, encompassing vulnerability and threat research, security operations, security assessment and testing, incident investigation, network security, secure software development, and encryption. Mike, welcome to the show. We're curious, what's your cyber fear and what keeps you up at night?
Good question. I kind of predicted that one was coming, Scott. So, but appreciate you having me. Thank you very much. And I guess I'd have to say what keeps me up at night is this idea that some of our customers or organizations are sitting down kind of post-security event, post-incident, doing a post-mortem, doing a root cause analysis and coming to a determination that some of the security investment they already made could have been, really important or useful in either, containing or blocking or preventing the incident in the first place. And so what the aspect of that keeps me up is really continuously thinking about what could we have as an organization have done to make them better informed that, could they have had a better configuration in place, follow best practices, had, better people process technology, and continuously trying to think about how could we have avoided that situation for our customer in the first place. So spend a lot, probably too much time tossing and turning thinking about that.
Yeah, certainly a cyber fear. Now, hey, just to shift gears a little bit, I'm curious. A couple weeks ago, we were both at Black Hat there. It was a really exciting show. It was kind of nice to get out of the pandemic world and real in person again, because I've done a lot of virtual shows, and I'm sure that you guys have done that also at Trend Micro. I'm curious, what are some of the takes or things that you could walk away with, things that we learned at Black Hat? Now, certainly there was a lot of talk there. I think the keynote was Chris Krebs, and it was kind of interesting. He was his director at CISA there, and it was interesting. He talked about this cyber workforce shortage, and I think that's probably a problem that affects all of us. It certainly affects our business. I'm sure at Trend Micro you guys have challenges finding good talent and trying to get people on board. Anything else that standouts that you were listening to or learned from the show at Black Hat?
Yeah, I'm with you that it was good to not be attending virtually as we had in the previous years, the past couple of years anyway. I don't know how you felt, but there was an energy at that event this year.
Like a buzz.
Buzz that was even higher than pre-pandemic kind of levels, and it had me jumping from customer meeting to session to keynote to back to the show floor. I think that main issue of the workforce challenges is something that we face day in and day out at Trend, and we have so many programs to try to address that. We've got certification programs that we invite people in to come and participate for 8 weeks and kind of learn technology and learn security and try to then, let them branch out into the community and use that experience to find jobs. And we've got internships that we've ratcheted up all of our internship programs to try to take advantage of that. So that challenge is certainly real. But some areas that we focused on this year at Black Hat was we had a talk that took place related to, and I know some of your previous guests talk a lot about the importance of patching, right?
Yeah.
Timeliness, all of that stuff. So I'm not going to give a lot of background to that. I think it's been covered. But the angle that we were really focused on this year, and one of the themes that we had was patch failures, right? So the idea of patching is very expensive, as organizations put a lot of time and resource and energy into that. And if the vendors are producing patches that aren't, fully effective or can be easily bypassed, that energy needs to then repeat, have to go back and apply a secondary patch and sometimes a third patch. And so, we do a lot of vulnerability disclosure as part of Trend Micro research. And we're pushing vendors to really make sure that they're focused on quality with the patching that they do. They're not just trying to get that CVE checkbox and, move on, but actually make sure that they're addressing the root cause of the vulnerability and that it can't be easily bypassed or evaded. And so we've actually come out with some new disclosure guidelines where if we believe something was a failed patch, we will change our timelines when it comes to it. So we're a lot of pressure on vendors and organizations to kind of, and Trend Micro internally, we're going to follow the same guidelines, right? We make sure that we are doing our best to make sure that customers only have to go through that effort once. The analogy I always use is, if you have a safety recall on your car and you get it, you take the time to take it into the dealership, you get it fixed, you get home, and then the next week there's another letter saying that wasn't 100% effective, and you go back and you repeat this cycle a few times. Eventually that letter is going to get ignored, right? You're not going to actually action it anymore, and so we don't want it to get to that situation with vendor patches.
Yeah, it's a brilliant point, because there is, to some degree, in the industry, a level of complacency, I think, with lots of different things that people just get tied up in, and they stop patching, they stop doing this, don't do the updates. It's a problem. Yeah, I was thinking, I guess this, if I remember right, Black Hat, they were celebrating, I guess, the 25th year, so it was kind of exciting. And maybe that's part of the reason, thinking back to what you said, there was that buzz there that we were talking about, certainly. And I've noticed from year to year, sometimes it's the same thing, but this year, it seemed a little bit different. I mean, this year, I know a lot of the talk, I mean, we were talking before, even open cybersecurity framework. I don't know what your thoughts were on that, but that was a lot of buzz this year, which I thought was kind of exciting. And any takes from that?
Yeah, absolutely. We were one of the leading partners that worked on the open cybersecurity framework, the OCSF, along with Splunk and AWS and many others. Actually, it's something that I'm super excited about, because I've faced the challenges that we're trying to address with this. I hate to use analogies continuously, but the one I use for this when I'm explaining OCSF to people that ask is really, have you seen like these World Trade Organization meetings that have all these countries together in one room? Well, they don't all speak the same language. So what do? Right? They have interpreters at the back, and they put those things in their ears, and they have the translation that takes place in real time. And I kind of think that's what we've been living in the security industry for so long, is that we have all these partners that want to share information, share intelligence, but yet we all speak our own language. So what requires, us to, ideally assign an interpreter that then does a translation in through an app or an integration that sits in that security product. But, things get lost in translation. If maybe there is no interpreter for that particular language or product. And so what we end up having is, the information or intelligence can't be shared effectively. And so when I look at OCSF, what we're trying to do collectively is identify a language we can all speak. Instead of needing the interpreter or needing that device in the ear, can we all just speak the same language? And sure, it's not going to be perfect out of the gate, right? There's going to be, regional, slang, if you will, that gets used and stuff like that will take some time for us all to learn. But if we can at least speak the same core language and have that same schema that we use to communicate between products, it's going to at least streamline the process or make it a little bit easier for us to share intelligence and information, which ultimately will benefit the consumer or customer in the end, right?
Yeah. Ultimately, that's what we all want to, keep them happy, and it keeps us happy.
Yes, exactly.
How about another kind of terms that we were hearing a lot at the show was red teaming. What are the benefits of that? Can you share maybe from some of your insight from your perspective at Trend Micro?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of red teaming and just more in general, taking an offensive security posture or look at your organization. I think that many organizations could benefit, whether they handle it internally or externally, getting a perspective of, how does a threat actor look at my organization? How would they approach attacking me? What are the techniques that they would use? What are the targets they would go after? And so we actually did a challenge in booth and a separate challenge at Black Hat, where we tried to share some of these techniques and tools and procedures and processes with our audience to get them used to that offensive oriented mindset. And I think it can really benefit, we're in security. You kind of touched on it earlier, talking about how we can be event driven, right? So, all of a sudden a security incident happens, and sure, it's got everybody's attention, and we're all diligent, and we're all, let's not make sure that anybody follows us in when we badge into the office, or let's make sure that we're not falling for phishing attacks and all. But that the diligence starts to wear over time. Yeah. And so, I think of red teaming or offensive security as a way to kind of create an event, a compelling event for that to, for them to, from an external perspective, look at the organization, attack the organization, do some breach simulation, identify, can I get domain credentials? What could I do with those domain credentials in a safe way when it's not in the hands of a threat actor?
Yeah.
And I think the more that organizations do that, going back to what keeps me up at night, the more they'll have the visibility into those configuration changes they need to make, the more the monitoring that they'll need to put in place to make sure that these things are visible and seen, the alerting, reporting, all of that stuff. And so if you can do that in a safe way, then I think it'll pay dividends in trying to determine where you make your investments in your security program.
Yeah, yeah, I agree 100%. That's really a valid point there. Excellent. Well, this has been a really great conversation, but you know what? Our viewers might have some questions or might want to reach out to you, Mike, or even Trend Micro, learn a little bit more about some of the great stuff you guys are doing. What's the best way that they maybe can connect up with you and some of the stuff at Trend Micro?
Yeah, absolutely. We're always interested in those conversations. So me personally, I can be reached on LinkedIn, Mike
Hmm.
Gibson, but at Trend Micro, but also highly encouraged. We've got both our Trend Micro research blog and Twitter handle, and then the Zero Day Initiative blog and Twitter handle, where you can get information and intelligence on kind of our approach to vulnerability research and some of the latest and greatest things we're doing there.
Awesome. Well, great. Great. Thanks again for joining, sharing your cyber fear, and also all the insight. And keep up the great things that you're doing there at Trend Micro, keeping us all safe.
No, great. I really appreciated getting an opportunity to do this. Thanks, Scott.